Fan scriptures on air.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fan Scripture on Air podcast with your boy Flash 205 and Darth Proteus.
Ew.
We got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of stuff that we need to catch up on in terms of discussion.
And we have a guest. Say hello, ChuckyCheezus.
Hello. I'm here.
Okay, well, so, Chucky, we got Foes 3. It just started.
Both threes. Yeah.
How do you feel about that really big cast?
It's a lot to manage. It's kind of hard to schedule at times, and it's pretty stressful. The same thing happened with Legion. Just trying to make sure that everyone can actually go there.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's always going to happen with big cast, but you pulled that off. Legion's still arguably one of our best projects, although every project is a Green Meanie winner in my heart.
Very true.
Yeah, very true.
So, so I remember it was a long process to write Foes 3, correct?
Oh yeah. We started out writing the outline, I think, in January. Last I checked.
Oh wow, that's like almost as long as Spider spent like working on Agent Venom, and that was a pre-written.
That's almost as long as it's taken for Ray's Good Time to have a next session.
Speaking of, it somehow managed to finally finish. I don't know how they did it, but the boys came through in the clutch. So
yeah,
gotta clap for that.
Yeah. Okay, so Chucky, what were you saying about writing from January?
Yeah, so I checked. We used to have a Raimi versus or Foes 2 planning chat, and I checked that, and we had started writing or coming up with ideas for it at least back in January.
Whoa, the Foes special projects room. Hmm?
Yeah, that's
Day
where
32,
Jordan.
Mr. Cheezus.
Yeah, we had several candidates there. That's where Jornik first came up with the idea for Foes Go to Hell, which Nigerian later took. But the first idea was it was going to be called The Spectacular Friends of Spider-Man. And it was always going to have Spider-Man be with the team. That was always all right. It's always been called this is before we changed the name to just Foes 2. It was, okay, so they're called the Spectacular Foes of Spider-Man, but Spider-Man hasn't been in any of these movies. We have no idea where he's been. Presumably during Spectacular Foes 1, at least the parts in New York were during when he was in Florida, maybe.
Are we in Florida?
And, as Agent Venom revealed, Spider-Man now works for S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's sort of supposed to be implied that now he just goes on all sorts of international missions and stuff, which is why he wasn't there for Foes 2, and now why that's why they're working together in Foes 3.
I really like the team that you've assembled, and I'm just gotta say you should file a lawsuit against Marvel Studios because that Black Widow trailer blatant ripoff. I must say blatant.
Literally, as soon as I saw that trailer, I was like, oh, this is the exact same movie. But I couldn't say anything about it.
I have a feeling that they're gonna do something else with it other than what you're doing. Trust me.
I mean, it's it involves the character's past and the Soviet super soldiers in some extent, and they're going to Russia, and Black Widow has the white suit, and they're in the snow.
But it doesn't involve Natasha's sister in any way that I know of?
Not yet.
Yeah, I can definitely say that she's not going to be in it. That's not going to be in that.
Also, Vanguard isn't just made into a washed-up, middle-aged fat guy joke.
Oh, yeah. No, we turned him into just a ripoff of K from Blade Runner.
Vanguard 2049.
Yeah.
The Spectacular Friends of Spider-Man, I'm gonna be honest, it sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon from the 60s.
Yeah, I got it. It does
yeah.
kind of sound the spider like that Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It sounds like that. That was the better 1980s Spider-Man cartoon because the regular 80s Spider-Man cartoon is actually almost worse than the 60s one, which I didn't think was. They had a higher budget and it's still somehow more boring.
Yeah, that was the original idea. It was sort of like, all right, so Foes 1 was this really like comedic, light script. Foes 2 went a little darker. So then you're like, all right, let's do like a really campy title and then go back to the fun. And then we ended up settling on something that like is even like more kind of dark in some aspects.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but I can definitely say, having read the script for Foes 3, I think that you've pulled it off, but it never feels drowned in its own darkness at any point. And even like the start to it, you don't get the sense that it's just this grim and really like joyless environment. Like it feels like a fun adventure. It just has really intense and dramatic sequences in it, which not going to spoil, but I will say, it's going to be very tough to get up once y'all sit down and start watching the last few sessions of this project. So, might want to use the bathroom before you sit down.
You're gonna have to use the bathroom for a while. I tried to do some calculations, and it's supposed, assuming we don't have any canceled sessions, it'll be over in like May. So,
God.
yeah,
I miscalculated.
I may have gone too far in a few places, but Senna and I, we were really worried about the length, but eventually we were like, if people have a problem with it, they can write a fan edit or their own outline,
I mean, like you made the Shrektacular Foes of Spider-Man. That was amazing. I can't even lie.
I think I voted for that for the Green Meanies as the best fan edit.
I probably did too. I don't know. There really weren't that many fan edits like that like went into that high effort. So
I kind of feel bad about that one too, because I changed like every single song in the soundtrack, and I made like the new soundtrack cover. I made a new credit, but I barely touched the script at all. So looking back on it, I probably should have spent another hour or two just inserting Shrek references.
Well, the point is to make it different, not just literally make it like the first Shrek film. So I think you did fine.
Like the intro is now, you know how in the first Shrek he's like reading a fairy tale, and then he rips the page out and
literally
wipes
his ass.
I changed it so it's Aaron Davis in like a porta potty reading a comic book, and he rips the page out and he wipes his ass. So
That's beautiful.
that's like the only Shrek thing I put in there.
That just feels like a Shrek version of like something from like one of the last panels of Watchmen or something, and like the comic stand guy and the little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it's really exciting. Can't wait to see where Foes 3 is going. It's already had a fantastic start. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but I think the entire cast is excellent so far.
Yeah, it's been going good so far. It's kind of funny because me and Senna didn't put in that intro bit in Russia until I think like most of Act 2 was done. Originally, it was supposed to just open with Rhino being interrogated. But then as we got further into the script and Rhino and Natasha's friendship and his sort of past became a bigger part of the script, we were like, it probably would make sense if we showed how they met. And then we thought would be a funny thing to reference, and the Uncharted 3 intro is what came out.
I think that gives a little more depth to their relationship into Rhino's past. That's always a good choice. You wanted to be the hero, Alex. Now you gotta pay the price.
Yeah, we were struggling a bit with maybe having too much of Rhino's past be in it. Like, almost like it's borderline half of the film is just flashbacks. So we cut down on some stuff. And some things would be a bit redundant. So
yeah, it's always understandable to know when you have things that legitimately add things to what you're making and when it just feels like you could do without it. Or when there's other scenes that fulfill the same purpose.
Yeah, since I've calculated it's going to end at May, I was really panicking over winter break. Like, we've got to do as much of this as possible. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't exactly the best mindset, I'd say. I've learned my mistake from that.
Good man.
And we're just gonna do it as we can, not rush it.
That's the best way to go about a project, because it's the fun you have along the way, not getting to the finish line, you know?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just doing it just to do. Yeah, that's been a great conversation. We've got some other things we got to talk about. But the ending of Green Lantern Corps happened very recently. The project took about a month or two. I don't remember exactly how long, but it honestly didn't feel that long, all in consideration. And I really like that, because it was really well paced, and the ending felt right. It didn't feel rushed or anything, despite the fact that it felt like it had only been about 2 or 3 months since the project began, which is typical. And I think it was really spectacular. I'm amazed that Spider and Senna were able to write an ending that big that didn't feel like they were just throwing everything at the wall that they possibly could. Everything felt like it had a place. Nothing in excess.
It was a really great ending, I'd say. The whole script, it feels so obvious, just taking what Jeff Johns wrote. And I mean, that's kind of what the Green Lantern animated series did.
Yeah, and I liked how he used a lot of elements from it, and every character there is there for a purpose. I'm amazed that they were able to put that many characters into it, and none of them feel like they're just there for fan service. They all have a plot purpose leading to up to the main twist. None of it feels just like, hey, I know what that is. I clapped when I saw my favorite character.
I know what that is.
Yeah, I think it was a good decision to not introduce every Lantern Corps in the film, so only half of them are in.
Most of the important ones, but none of them feel like they're being wasted.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they're just shoehorned in.
I like how at first the film sort of tries to make you think that Atrocitus is going to be the main villain of the film, and it honestly seems like that up until the end of the second act. But then of course they reveal that Sinestro has been pulling an Ozymandias the entire time, and I really loved pulling that twist off, because my favorite kind of villain tends to be the really over the top and cheesy ones, but I also really love to do the calculating ones that have just been pulling the strings the entire time, and then at the end they just really get to boast about how they've played everyone like a fiddle.
Yeah, your Sinestro was really great.
I appreciate it. I definitely had so much fun with that, even though he's really only in the last third of the film. It feels appropriate, given that even though he's not in the first part of it, it's all been, the hints are there if you look.
Yeah, the hints are there, and I mean, it's Sinestro, so it's pretty safe to say he's totally just only gonna be in this one, We don't have any plans in the future.
Unless Lobo roughs him up a lot in Galactic jail.
Are we doing a prison rape joke now, like Rad?
No, I'm not going that far. I'm just saying that unless Gustav Fiers randomly shows up and says he's found some worthy candidates, we don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that was Rad. Well, I couldn't make a lot of sensational sessions, but the one of the few I could make, he really wanted me to make a prison rape joke as Hammerhead, and I was
Good God, yeah.
No.
I think literally almost the entirety of what I've done for Redemption has basically been to not necessarily directly address, but to narratively undo that shitty.
Yeah. If he made me do that, I honestly would have quit.
I honestly have wanted to it several times, because I wondered why he wrote into the script after I had already wrote an entire episode. What was he thinking when he's like, Shocker is trying to sound like a badass? What should he say? Oh, I know, he'll make a sexist joke about, I'm not gonna say it because this is a PG podcast.
This is a
family-friendly podcast, but let's just say the entirety of what I've had to do for something I'll address later has been to narratively undo that completely.
So you're subverting expectations like Mr. Johnson?
Subversion time. Your Shocker theory sucks. Yeah. Also, right after the end of GLC, it was pretty quick on the dime at JLA's auditions are starting. That's really cool. I'm really excited to see what Mr. Hydra Looney does. I know he's gonna make really good stuff, because he and Mac have been absolutely killing it with inferior foes. So I'm really anticipating this.
Yeah.
Probably
JLA's
one
had
of our
a
longer cast lists too, so that's really
Yeah.
impressive.
I might be even more than Foes 3.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
We definitely had a bit of trouble trying to get Justice League of America working, especially after all that stuff with Foe. But I can definitely say Looney's outline is much better, and we're going in a much better direction. Much more faithful and interesting direction, too.
I would totally agree. Like, to be honest, I mean, Spider is totally right when he has said this to us privately before, but like he's really the only one who like stopped to really look at the outline. Because I mean, like everyone else just sort of took like a surface level glance at it, which is why no one saw the incredibly glaring problems that featured things such as Wonder Woman for some reason being caged like an animal because
Oh,
the congressional
Yeah,
board wanted
it
to
was.
investigate superheroes, and it was this.
It was really bad.
It was like he's literally doing. Well, he's basically becoming what the creator of Wonder Woman was, but I mean, I'm not even going to go into that because that's.
Yeah.
Just look that up on Wikipedia if you really want to know all the kinks that the creator of Wonder Woman was into.
It wasn't even a subtle.
It wasn't. It was a not subtle nod.
That cage was meant for Booster Gold originally, right? So like he just put her in there. It wasn't even anything at trying to like reference or address the history of bondage with Wonder Woman. It wasn't like anything like Grant Morrison with Wonder Woman Earth 1.
The entire thing had serious issues because like it would go from this like these like political thriller, almost BVS like elements to like scenes where it feels like it's just the happy-go-lucky action comedy, and it just doesn't work. And I appreciate what Looney has done more because it obviously has much more care and attention paid to the characters. Like it doesn't like the Foy's script just started off with just like a brief clip of each of the heroes, and then just bam, it's right into this act. It was basically a very stretched out and watered down version of the first 3 episodes of the 2003 Justice League cartoon. Looney is basically more like what feels like they're ripped from it feels like there's elements from almost every iteration of the Justice League, and there's a lot of love for the characters there, and it's it's definitely a much more fun time, but it's not pure comedy either. There's a lot of drama to it, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, it feels as epic in scope as the Grant Morrison and Scott Snyder runs on Justice League, but also has...
It's got that little touch of Jeff Johns.
Yeah, has a little touch of Jeff Johns in it, and it isn't afraid of the Silver Age elements.
Oh yeah, it
Bringing
totally
back
like
Starro and
like
Rainbow
how
Raider.
Wonder Woman went from her New 52 costume to her classic red, white, and blue.
Yep, that's a thing, and it'll be explained in the movie.
I'm surprised that Looney, would. I mean, I'm not surprised, but it's just a little weird because he's also doing Foes with Mac, so I didn't think I didn't think he would be doing 2 at once. I wouldn't do that. Essentially 2 at once.
He's co-directing Inferior Foes, so it's not as much of a burden, but yeah, I can understand where you're coming from with that.
Because I don't know if I could even handle directing one project, let alone directing one and then co-directing another, plus
directing
writing the
2
outlines.
at a time is not a fun idea. I've done it before when I had to do with Kenobi and deal with Jameson and Spider-Man 6 around that time, and it was just...
I really felt bad for you around that time because like you were really, really slamming it, and but honestly, all of those turned out just great. I don't care who says that Spider-Man 6 was too long. It really isn't. And Kenobi honestly, considering the production problems I had initially, the fact that it was as solid as it was is frankly just damn impressive.
Yeah, I've really fought to keep Kenobi going because of its ending. But even I'll admit, I kind of lost passion for it going through, especially with that second to last session where I was like, nobody's gonna watch, so I'll just throw in these really out of place cameos for the Yoda films that are definitely not going to be in the PDF.
Well, everyone makes their mistakes. It's perfectly all right. Like sometimes you feel like you have to go for like the recognition and the reactions more than like the quality of your projects, and like that's something that even the best directors occasionally have in terms of like their mindset. I had that for a brief period during Fantastic Four because I was already distressed about what Mr. MW Cool did to like the beginning of it, and I was sort of like in panic mode trying to fix what I kind of felt was like fading morale after that, but it really was just a mindset I had because the project had its issues, but like I had it under control. I was just sort of in panic mode because I was afraid of what his reputation had done to like taint the image of the project. But by the end session, I was just totally pumped to finish it because it worked out way better than I thought it was going to after those initial issues. But similarly, I can confirm that that scene will not show up in the PDF. That one scene that you are all thinking about, the Monty Python not subtle nod. I don't even know what he was thinking with that because it's like it was supposed to be like this character development scene, and then suddenly it turns into this like comedic bit.
Yeah, it just doesn't work at all. And people tried to defend it when it first happened, but
I even tried to because I was just like in awe of what I was seeing. I was just kind of like, well, maybe he'll wrap it up soon, because I thought it would only be like 1 or 2 lines, but no, they just kept going for like 5 minutes until I'd be like, okay, we are moving.
Situation, and I don't blame Chef at all. He was just going up.
He was just. I mean, the only thing he really could do so as to not make the scene even more disjointed and like out of place.
He did the best he could.
Yeah, and even he knew that it was just like weird. But I'm glad to be totally rid of him, Rod.
Well, I'm excited, to get back into Batman, even though Vengeance just ended. But,
after Vengeance, you were flying high with that, buddy. Trust me.
And I didn't even really know until the Green Meanies. Well, I guess I knew, but like, didn't we also announce a sequel for Justice League as well? Am I going crazy?
That'll come later.
You were thinking about the sequel to Batman Vengeance.
Oh,
Batman
that's
Midnight,
the one.
Batman Midnight, also known as Batman: The Rise of Sun Tzu, but Johnny T. Tears is too afraid to admit it.
Okay, that's the one. I didn't know. No one told me. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm doing another movie.
Yeah,
but I like Batman, so I mean, who doesn't like Batman?
Be a little more open with actors on like stuff we have planned.
Mm-hmm. At least the main actors, the ones who know they'll be returning for the role.
As you've said multiple times now on this podcast, you were just completely surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
being asked to reprise a role, and I never really thought about that before. So, I'll try to take that into account now.
But now it's definitely a much better idea to now just like sort of like have it set in stone that like if you did a good job, you'll be recast. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And you really have to go out of your way to be awful, like Astugart levels of awful to not get.
That's designed to handle your speed.
It's stylistically designed to be that way. You can't undo that. You can diminish the effects. Maybe hopefully it'll work. And also, we should mention something else that happened. The Loyola cut, which was that was what an unexpected surprise. It was excellent. Like the original was already like an A. This was like an A plus with a scoop of ice cream on top. It was awesome.
It was very cool to read a project that I had no involvement in and didn't know what it was gonna be.
Yeah, like I love doing projects, but the ones that I'm not involved in, basically because I don't already know what's gonna happen. I like the element of like surprise in that way, and
that's very rare for me to have. So
the kills in this version of the script are like, well, I mean, it's like night and day compared to the original, even though the original was just
absolutely.
Jork and Gwyn did excellent with those, and like it's like I said in my like text review in the FS Plus channel. A lot of times horror movies will just try to make side characters annoying so you'll want them to die, but this one doesn't do that. It makes all of them serve a vital purpose to the point where you're shocked and disgusted when they do die. And I feel like that should be the better intention, because that actually leaves you sort of with a sickening feeling when the protagonist is the only one left to fight off the main villains, rather than just like, good, he was a dick, I hated him anyway.
Yeah, it was very good. I wish, as I also said in my text review, I felt like there could have been a little more time before the Raptors got loose. But like I also said, that's basically like every good Jurassic Park movie. You have a big amount of time with these characters, and you just know that something's gonna go down. This is not a good idea, and then it goes down. So this kind of subverted that, because there was an element, it wasn't straight from getting to the island to the Raptors attacking, but that wasn't as big of a focus. The focus was directly on the Raptors and the kills and building up Loyola to be badass motherfucker.
Awesome. He was definitely awesome, and I mean he fucking picked up one of them and threw him across the floor with his bare hands.
So awesome.
That was amazing, honestly.
Yeah.
And at first I sort of felt like I could have used a little time with some of the characters, but it's inherently meant to be shorter than the other Jurassic Park ones. And initially it's meant to be more in line with a short film, but it is still in feature length. And I think it works just fine, because all of the characters feel like they have depth. They don't feel one note, or like they just have one shtick that they all do. They feel like they all have depth. And,
they're all memorable.
Especially like I was about to mention a character death, but you know what? Just read it yourself. You really should. You're missing out if you're not reading that yourself.
Not gonna spoil it. I mean, except we already kind of did. Whatever.
It may be short, but let's just say it's so dense. Every single image has
so many things going on.
And that's everything that's happened recently. And now we should probably talk about the thing that you're here to discuss, Mr. ChuckyCheezus. So why don't you bring us right into that?
Okay, yeah. So over a month ago, we had the Green Meanies event in December. We got a lot of surprises, I'd say. Some surprising winners.
Couple of expensive thrills.
Couple of expensive thrills. I just first want to say that every project that got nominated absolutely would have been absolutely deserved a Green Meanie.
Yeah, everything up there, even the ones that didn't make it to the finalist nomination list, they were awesome. And pretty much, given the kind of year we had last year, almost every project was nominated for something. And even if you weren't, it was probably good enough to warrant it anyway, simply because I can't think of a single project other than like the project in the DC fan scripture that will not be spoken of. Yeah, the project that shall not be named. Everything other than that, high effort, nothing felt like it was bad other than that. And honestly, thank you, Chucky, for rescuing Bouncing Boy from just like a 2-hour-long unfunny fat joke.
Yeah,
especially for that reason.
The funny thing about Bouncing Boy was that Foey is the one who convinced me to keep him in the script. It was very hard to kind of choose who was going to be in the Legion, because there are so many characters in that. So, the original premise, as Protus knows, I don't think Flash knows, was a Legion script was my idea for a Superman script. Because I was thinking, what if we actually had a Superboy film adaptation where Superboy got brought to the future?
That.
And a common thing in DCFS planning, no one likes my ideas.
Okay, well, it's not always, that is not always true. It's just that one in particular was,
Johnny,
I don't know, we just
Protus,
found...
and Spider we're like, nope. So...
And it was just kind of odd. I honestly kind of find it kind of funny that we all agreed on that, because I mean, at that time we weren't even sure who was going to do Superman, what it was even going to be about, or who would play who. It was just all kind of up in the air.
Yeah, no, I will say, looking back on it, it was the wise decision, because what I had in mind was basically just Cal's arc in American Alien, and So if I had put Superboy in that, it would have just been repeating that. So it's good that we didn't do that. And also it let us take more from the cartoon, which was I was a huge fan of.
It led you to use Superman X, which I was glad to play that role, of course.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite roles, in all honesty.
Yeah, like I was saying, so after Spider said you should make it like with Superman X and have it be about these like fanboys in the future that grow up and become real superheroes. I was mad for a bit, because swallowing my pride and stuff, but I ran with that premise, and then I was trying to decide what should the team be, and I had to have the the founding members, Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, and Lightning Lad, not Lightning Boy, which is what he was called in his original when he first appeared in comics. But yeah, so it was hard to pick who should be on there. And I was like, you know what? I can't really think of anything for Bouncing Boy. So he was like my favorite Legion character, but I was going to cut him. And then Foley was like, no, dude, you should totally have him in there. And so I was like, all right, I'll keep him in there. And then eventually, like, I think a month later, I was like, I got it, I give Bouncing Boy this whole crazy arc that's nothing like in the comics, where it is in the comics that he gets rejected several times, but I was like, what if he founded the Legion of Super Rejects, which was this real team that only appeared for like 2 issues.
Well, that was honestly really funny, and I loved that inclusion. And he even did join the Legion of Superheroes for a period towards the end, which is what a lot of people were clamoring for. So, giving the fans what they want, Chucky, the master of that.
Yeah, and then the ending, of course, when he rejected full membership and decided to found the Legion of Substitute Heroes, which he's run in some of the comics. That was the way to go.
Yeah, that's totally understable. And
what were we talking about again?
The Green Meanies. That was the
Green Meanies. Yeah. Right. The one that Legion didn't win anything in. Ooh.
But, anyway, I gotta say, I was on this trip that I was forced to go on at the time, so I didn't even think I was gonna be able to. I was still like an hour late, simply because I was stuck in the fucking boondocks with barely any service for like an hour. But I wasn't actually that late because it had gone slower than I anticipated. Only one nominee had been announced, so like I definitely got this awesome feeling. It actually kind of felt like I was sitting down in a movie theater with everyone as they were
I'm
playing
sitting down in a movie theater.
and I start
to
seeing
see things
I
I
recognize.
Avatar 2 coming to FS Plus.
Oh, I'm so excited for Avatar 2.
That's either gonna be like the best thing ever. It's gonna be so bad it's good, and it's gonna be glorious.
Yeah.
even if people don't like it, there's still gonna be like 4 more.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Okay, so definitely big winner for the Green Meanies was Spider, which absolutely is well deserved.
Spider War
Spider
best
War,
project, and at least one more, I think.
No, Spider War basically sweeped everything. It didn't win Best Actor, Supporting Actor, but I mean, it won a lot of big ones.
It didn't need to sweep to be a good project, and clearly the masses have determined it was one of our finest projects to date.
Yeah, it got Best Ensemble Cast, it got Best On-Screen Chemistry, it got Best Credits, it got the Best Fight Scene for the very last fight scene, which, I mean, like, there's no competition. Like, nothing could top that. I remember during that fight scene, I nearly missed out on my cameo as May. I was really stressing out because that was like the first day I was at college or something, first or second day. And my roommate was trying to get me to hang out with like some people in our hall. And I was just like, no, I can't. Like, I got something to go on. But I made it. And then I edited in another Endgame reference, which it kind of doesn't make sense now, but I feel like especially by the time Spider-Girl 1 and like years from now or whatever, when we get to Spider-Girl 2, it'll make sense.
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of funny that the entire thing was even seen that way because, like, that ending was written before Endgame. What is it with Marvel Studios and stealing our endings? This is absolute heresy.
We turned it into an Endgame like fight.
Yes, but it was like tasteful.
Yeah, it wasn't
like Spider had said before we even started that he was worried about Endgame because he was just like, shit, not again. But we made it work.
Studio cucks fan scripture 1 million. That just happens all the time. Way more than it's even public. Just ideas.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff. And what definitely one that I was surprised to see, but definitely well earned, best actor. I'm afraid to try to say his name again, but you already know.
Pancakes.
Yeah,
Pancakes.
Yes.
Pancake.
I'm just gonna say it like Poundcakes. Poundcakes, best actor, totally earned it. Definitely a surprise. I was honestly expecting Senna to win it for Raimi Spider-Man, but I'm definitely not mad about it because Poundcakes did a great job as TFC Spider-Man, even doing it for himself. And it's honestly, I mean, obviously he had an advantage because he knows how he wants his character to be and how he's meant to portray it in the script. And it totally worked what he was trying to do, especially aside all the side characters like your Mary Jane.
It definitely, there was an extra element too because it felt like Poon, he was like, all right, so I got cast in Legacy, which we all know how that turned out. It didn't work out in the slightest. It would have been a terrible film.
I just feel bad for everyone that Arkham King duped into that.
Yeah. So he felt really bad about how that failed. And he was like, all right, well, you know what? I still want to do Spider-Man, so I'll do my own thing. And it's funny that I ended up being Mary Jane in that because I was going to be Gwen in Legacy. So it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Like poetry. Every stanza rhymes with the next one.
Yeah. But yeah, the acting definitely was really great on that. And him and your brother definitely deserved it.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. Definitely well earned. And also, I believe your brother won Best Supporting Character for Beck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he won Best Supporting Actor for Beck.
Yeah, he definitely did that. Maybe I mean at first, given that how much he likes Far From Home, Beck, I was wondering if he'd take anything from what we'd. I don't actually remember if the film was out at the time, but he might have taken some from like the trailers and stuff. But no, he totally did his own thing, and I gotta respect him for that. Because I've had to do the same thing with characters I played in like the DCFS, because I'm obviously tied to the DCU versions. But you gotta do something different and make it work, and he totally did that. Honestly, kind of funny in hindsight now that the little shop Beck runs kind of feels like what I would have imagined the Howie Bling's Uncut Gems store to look like.
Yeah.
And let's see, other nominees. Best Villain. I was honestly surprised to even remotely win anything, let alone.
Your Joker's so good, man.
Yeah, you're great.
I do appreciate it. And to think, I'm pretty sure that was before I even managed to sneak Joker's trick into the ending of Vengeance, which I'm really proud of. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm honestly honored to share it, of course, with a villain as incredible as Rad's Spider Carnage, because he did so good with that, so good. One of the best FS villains in history, I might add.
I mean, Proteus, you're just great as Joker. I mean, you nail, Willem Dafoe. I can imagine him playing him. I can imagine your lines.
I've said it before, but I do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I try to meld what I would imagine Willem Dafoe's like body language would be, because that's body language is like a key to what he does. It was a key to his Green Goblin performance, and you mix that, like the expressions, with what you would imagine more classic Jokers would say. I've always said that I imagined he would say things that like Mark Hamill would say, or things that Nicholson would say, but maybe less smarmy and more psychotic than that. And that's mainly what I've been going with, and apparently it's worked. And I'm really proud of what I've been able to make because Johnny really liked it too. And of course, I'm always going to be the dynamic duo with your Batman.
Hell yeah, you're the perfect Joker to my Batman.
But no, I don't want to kill you. No, you complete me.
I'm an idea.
Do you have any categories you want to talk about, Flash?
Well, we could talk about one that's a bit more light. The best meme of the year.
that was very controversial.
Okay, I have a bone to pick because technically, joint posting is not a meme; it is a meme server, by definition.
It is a meme. Dang it! It is a meme.
It's not a meme.
It's a subgenre of meme, but there's a distinct type of meme that, like, think about it. When you see a jerk meme, you know it's a jerk meme. It can't be anything else.
It's true, but I'm just saying WWE posting. Should have. That's all I gotta say. That's why I brought it up. If I'm being honest with you, just to say that. Shout out to Johnny. Shout out Brandon. Shout out Looney.
Insert the GIF here when the
When the-
Green Meanie doesn't go to WWE posting.
Even shout out to Cadman. I don't know how you say your name, but
I think it's Cade.
I
Cadman.
think it's Caveman.
We out here. That's all I gotta say.
We out here. And then, anything else you want to talk about, Flash, before we...
Oh, best soundtrack.
Oh yeah, that was a
Post
tie.
2 and Spiderwood. We got a tie on our hands. Is that the first time we've got a tie? Or how it?
Second tie we had this year.
Yeah, there was another tie.
Oh, what was the other one?
That was me and Rad for best villain.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Oh, right. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, Foes 2 and Spiderwood. I mean...
Yeah, those two definitely had a killer soundtrack. I'm not saying that just because I suggested, like, I think maybe a third of it. That's probably a bit too much. Jork had some really off-the-wall choices for some of them. Did you pick any of the songs, Flash?
I don't know. If I'm being honest with you, I don't remember. I don't know. I might have picked a few, but probably not. I was not a very good director on that one. So, you really shouldn't expect me to have done anything on that project that was important.
I'm a little underwhelmed because I thought, a little biased. I thought Legion of Heroes had a good soundtrack, but it only got 2 votes. So shout out to those 2 votes.
Damn, bro.
They know who they are?
For a moment. They probably don't at this point.
Yeah, it's been like a month. Probably will be like 2 months.
Honestly, like, how many random users, though, we don't really...
Yeah, I mean...
They always come out of nowhere when you least expect them, like during the Spider-War auditions, and then they just sort of disappear.
That's one thing, looking at the results, it's very clear that, it's obvious that Marvel fan scripture has, like, the most users and stuff, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope in the coming 2020 that people pay more attention to stuff on DC fan scripture and fan scripture plus.
I hope JLA will really be an opening for DCFS, and I think that FS Plus has already sort of had like its opening for like non-meme projects. Just like in terms of like the shitpost project that Yoda basically invented, that's already been perfected in terms of like the FS Plus format. But like the things that Gwyn have been doing, like 20K Under the Sea, Kenobi started it. It was like the forerunner to the good series project, and then 20K built on that. Now I think we're finally here with Dracula. It's finally getting like awesome views.
I'm not saying any of the awards didn't deserve winning. I'm just
every project deserved
winning. I just hope that next year there's much more even balance between the 3 servers, because pretty much Marvel fan scripture is the only one that got most awards. So.
Yeah, and it definitely shows. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but always nice to.
It's just, it is what it is.
Basically, I'm biased, but sometimes you feel like DCFS, you either like, I mean, you're never gonna be the most popular project there, but like as long as you get like 2 or 3 views, you're happy. At least I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Low key, DC fan scripture is my favorite server out of all of them.
It kind of is mine too, but I still love
Yeah,
the
I
other
love
ones,
all of
you know.
them,
No,
but-
Yeah,
no,
they're all great.
no,
I
no
think I'm
homo.
legally required to be an advocate of DC fan scripture, seeing as I'm Batman, literally like the most famous DC hero.
It's like Hydra Looney just snuck into Flash's studio and put a gun to his head.
Yeah, there's a red like sniper like laser just on my forehead.
Oh, there's
If I
one on
say
you
anything wrong.
too? Oh, I thought
Yeah.
that was the only one.
No, pro.
Morse code.
I'm blinking. Morse code. Anyways, that was nothing, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Another one that I definitely was looking forward to at the show was well, I mean, I sort of had the expectation and hope that I would win, like, best canceled project, because I actually figured I would have serious competition with 501, because that really was a show that was truly ahead of its time, and it was a shame that Cage didn't end up having enough time to write the show. But I know because I know that he would have brought really good ideas to the table.
Yeah, 501 was great, but best canceled project, it was a landslide.
And of course, there's Peter Parker Confliction, which was great, but Vic is a very busy man. He's out there grinding and furthering his career, and I have a lot of respect for him, because that man works hard to get where he's gotten in life. But I was really proud to see that Sensational really did have a lot of people behind it, that it wasn't just a fad or anything, which was what I wondered about it sometimes. Because, when I signed on to it, I was a little unsure, because, Jeff had personally asked me, hey, I noticed you're pretty active. We're looking for writers right now. We've got something to prove. Why don't you help us? And I was like, okay, I'm not really working on anything right now. And I really appreciate it, because, I originally considered it a bad thing at first, but given the one that Rad wrote by himself, I'm really glad that he gave me and Jeff mostly free reign after the first episode that he wrote by himself, to sort of do what we wanted with it, as long as we followed his general ideas, which I tended to challenge a lot, because while his general ideas were okay, but he had some that were a bit questionable. Like, for example, Eddie Brock is literally just doing the exact same show in the exact same format that he did in the movie. He literally just copy-pasted it. For some reason, I didn't even question it until I was like, wait a minute, this is...
And there was the questionable thing with Jameson.
Okay, yeah,
I don't even want to talk about that. That was just...
I don't consider that canon. But there are some things you can fix. That's something I couldn't even fix with a retcon if I wanted to. I'm just not going to consider it canon, because that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of who Jameson is.
You heard it here first, folks.
Not canon. That business on Bugle and the Moya doesn't count. But yeah. Anyway, I just gotta say it here first. That's a misunderstanding of who he is, because Jameson is not a bad person.
Yeah,
he can be a dick, but he is a dick with a heart of gold.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of how he was in the Spider-Man PS4 game, because
they basically just made him into.
They just turned him into Alex Jones, which that's a funny idea, but that's not exactly true to his character.
I mean, it's a funny idea, but if you're gonna keep, and I'm afraid that they're gonna do that in the MCU too. To be honest, sure, it's funny at first, but he is a character with so much more depth than that. Even depth that even the Raimi trilogy, which still has the best version of JJ ever, it couldn't even really go into that, simply because he was never a main character.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons why we want. It's firstly to kind of go into. I mean, Foswell's in it, so there's obviously gonna be sort of a Breaking Bad downgrade of his character until he becomes the big man like he was in Spider-Man 4.
Oh, but, the Foswell and Jameson are
Yeah, we want to show that Jameson used to be this really great reporter, and he's still a good guy.
Yeah, he's still. I mean, that scene where he helps Robbie defeat those bullies. That was really touching. Yeah, starting with DC, a lot of projects coming this year. Definitely no surprise, given that this was even bigger than the first year, and it's just gonna keep getting. You never know. It might wane and wax from here and there, but I bet we'll still keep going up from here. So first, we got Booster Gold by Mr. Lonkett. That was originally supposed to come out last year, but understandably, he had other things he had to work on, like Foes 2, and that turned out great. So I see why he had priorities there. Can't wait to see what he does, because I know he really likes that character.
Yeah, I'm very excited, especially with the fan cast, which, I mean, he cameoed in Fall of the Gods in the post-credit scene. So we all know James Franco is Booster Gold. So, like,
I know that face.
that's a big Harry Wink moment. Like, that he's the perfect cat actor for that.
Yeah, I truly hope there will be a subtle nod moment where he just randomly goes into a cafe and starts eating some pie.
That's the secret, Skeets. I'm the other guy.
What? I don't believe this. I don't believe you.
Believe it.
Harry Wink. And then of course we got Mr. Miracle by Hydra Looney. Definitely a surprise. I remember the first time, like in the chat, little Chucky's just like, Looney's doing Mr. Miracle. This is so poggers. And I was just like, he's actually been telling me about this for a while. And you were just like, what? I honestly thought he had been telling you for like a while. I thought he'd been telling you because I'm like, why would he tell me? Either way, no, we don't keep secrets, and I'm really glad that I've seen what he's got so far. Trust me, it's probably one of the more unique, but also one of the more it's unique, but it still follows a lot of like the same things you would expect from a DCFS script. Some pretty good ideas, some nice action, but some good, quiet character moments to go along.
Mm-hmm. I was very surprised and excited when he first showed me that he was working on it, because I wasn't really sure where exactly or if anyone would take up the new gods. I had sort of set them up in Legion, and I was a bit concerned, I guess, that they weren't going to be followed up on. It was just going to be like weird, like off thing that wasn't really necessary. But
yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, but Looney basically, like, his audition for Darkseid is the reason that chess scene in the movie. I just randomly came up with a prompt of like, all right, so this isn't in the movie, but it's a scene where Darkseid talks to the High Father, and Looney killed that audition so well. All right, now we got to put this in the movie, and then that ended up
troll moment.
Yeah, then that ended up setting up like, ooh, we mentioned in that Scott Free has escaped. And then Looney took that, and now he's making his own project. So it's like, it's been crazy.
I'm telling you, this man is paying attention to the details like no one else.
Yeah, that was really great. I'm also really excited for the Flash Rogue War by you, Proteus. That's gonna be great.
I really do appreciate it, because that's something I am really excited to work on. I honestly, like, when I was developing the original, I did have some insecurities, because obviously I had just come off of the heels of something that was, good idea and concept, but given the actors that were involved, I had no ability to execute it. So this was the first time I was going to have a chance to do something, and I'd actually had people willing to help me with it. And I finished it, and it turned out way better than I could have hoped. So I was really excited to start writing the sequel, and it's definitely still in its early phases, but I gotta say, I've cooked up a lot of ideas for this one. If you thought that the last one might have been pretty small scale in comparison to like the other ones, get ready, because this one is gonna knock your socks off. It's bigger in every way, but it'll still have those, the character drama that I think everyone liked about the first one. I'm not even trying. I hope I'm not sounding pretentious here. I'm just really excited.
Born to Run. That was very great. The Flash is probably like the main DC character that I know basically nothing about. So it was really nice to read that, and it was a great sort of introduction. Pretty much all of the Phase 1, I guess that's what we call it now. Yeah, Phase 1. All the DC Phase 1 movies are really good at introducing the characters. Even Nightfall, where it's like, it takes the Spider-Man PS4 route, where it introduces them years into their career. but they're just really great at introducing their main characters, setting up kind of what makes them who they are, and just it's great to see moving past that.
Mm-hmm. So Produce, you got a couple projects coming up too, buddy. You got
Oh yeah. I'll
The
just get mine
Batman?
out of the way so we can get up to everyone else. Honestly, I really had to wrestle with whether or not I really wanted to do these because in my heart I wanted to, but I was just like, well, geez, after the last one I tried to do in that vein went, would anybody even care? So I spent months like testing the waters, trying to see if there would really be demand for it, and it really took me a while to come up with it. But I was like, you know what? I think people would enjoy if I had unique takes on it, especially Man of Tomorrow. I think there's a lot more goodwill around because I know that Batfleck is always going to be more controversial, even though I still think I can make a good film out of him, like learning to move on from killing, which is, well, that's basically why he's controversial. But, Henry Cavill Superman never had that, and plus now I've got the reputation he's built off of The Witcher to work off of, so I'm much more confident in that. So everyone get ready to toss a coin to your Superman because it's going to be one wild ride.
Yeah, Batman in the DCEU. Definitely, if there was a solo movie before that, or even after, just showing okay, this is what led him to that point. And then if the Snyder Cut had come out with his redemption, I feel like people would have been much more understanding of it.
And yeah, that was one thing I only was able to touch on due to how held back I was by everything. But yeah, in the original version of that, given that Zack Snyder had actually requested that there be a sequel to Man of Steel and an individual Batman movie before they did the crossover, but Warner Brothers, being Warner Brothers, was like, we gonna take the cash and run, so you better go ahead and make that BVS movie or you can kiss your contract goodbye. So, naturally, given that he just signed on to it and didn't want to give it up so soon, he did his best, and not everyone loved it. I'm honestly one of the people who didn't even hate the theatrical version, but if you're gonna watch it, just watch the ultimate cut because there's so much removed from it that honestly watching the theatrical feels like you're watching
Yeah, the theatrical cut, I will very much say, feels unfinished.
It's so poorly edited too. The ultimate cut has professional level editing. I'm like, what happened here? Scenes just cut across ridiculous amounts of time with no explanation, but the ultimate cut provides everything feels a lot more slow and fleshed out. And that might bother some people because I think if you watch any Zack Snyder movie, it's going to be a fairly slowly paced experience. But if you're into that kind of thing, you'll be happy, especially if you've seen Zack Snyder's Watchmen, which of course did partially inspire the story for BVS, but sadly it lacks Ozymandias, the criminal.
The criminal. It's great to hear someone as passionate as you trying to finish what someone like Zach had tried to start.
I know I've been a super shill in the past. I try not to be in I see something in those that maybe not people see, and I just think I can take that, but also, I don't want to deny any of my own directorial impulses to it. I think I can still tell my own story, but also telling a story that I feel that he would tell. Because I like to tell the same kind of stories, which are mythological epics. Now, granted, I've never gotten to do a project like that simply because nothing I've done up until this point has been appropriate for that sort of sphere, or at least you wouldn't think so, but that's one of the main reasons I like Man of Steel, because it's a Superman story, yes, but it really delves into the mythology of his origins, and I really appreciated that. And obviously the Batman will just be more of a gritty street crime film. Maybe I'll throw a few elements of neo-noir because I feel like Zach would do that, but definitely expect more of that brutal Batfleck action minus the shooting stuff. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. But, speaking of Superman and Batman, I can't look past the fact that the DCFSU versions are fantastic. And, of course, I'm looking forward to, Superman Panic in the Sky. Spider's really going to have a chance to expand on the excellent arc that Cal had in American Alien there. Batman Midnight, of course, and Batman Reloaded, which is something that you teased a while ago, but is
I
just
teased
now.
that way too early.
I understand, you jump the gun sometimes. It can be you get excited.
Yeah, well, I was excited, and I posted that on the anniversary of Batman '89's release. I didn't think it was gonna take as long. I thought it was gonna be out by the end of the year, so I was like, all right, I'll tease it right now. And then I'd considered making some other teasers, like some other images, like counting down to a big reveal. But then I realized I barely have anything for it right now.
And like the original image is obvious enough because like if you've seen the classic like logo.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the most fun things. It was just a combination of the '89 and Returns logo. It looks really cool.
I'm honestly really excited for it too because I always loved one of the fatal flaws of like the Nolan films. They're still good films, but in the last two movies, Gotham loses like that gothic feel that Burton was able
that was
to
very
bring to it.
intentional.
I always loved that look about it, but I guess they felt that it was unrealistic to have such an antiquated looking city after Batman Begins, which actually did have a fairly Burton inspired look, even though obviously not as faithful. So then they just ditched it for Chicago and TDK.
They ditched it to rip off Heat's cinematography.
TDK is we gotta have another. TDK is just a rip off of Heat in here.
Oh, absolutely.
In the rest of DCFS, we of course have Wonder Woman Abyss from the Legend Cage, the sequel to the excellent Fall of the Gods. I loved Steve Trevor in that, and of course, ChuckyCheezus did good at yet another of his SJW female roles as Wonder Woman. Seriously though, he did excellent, and I loved working with him.
Yeah, no.
It definitely felt like it definitely felt like it took like the fish out of water comedy that the theatrical movie tried to do, which granted, I don't hate it as much as some other people in the server do, but it refined it and made it more appropriate for the character and less just funny haha.
Yeah. I find the movie it's really boring. It almost has something to say at the end about war.
It tries to, but the fact is that Eric's just such a poor villain. I thought the message about how that humanity is never purely good or evil, that was a good message. It's just ruined by the unnecessary big CGI climax.
Yeah.
And honestly, the first two acts are pretty solid, and it would have been a fairly solid movie if they had just resisted the urge to go all out at the end. Wonder Woman Fall of the Gods does have a pretty epic finale, but it's well built up to, and it doesn't make the mistake that one does, which is turning an actually fairly unique internal conflict into an external conflict that didn't really need to happen. And the entire conflict throughout the film in Fall of the Gods was external, even though there are still
Cronus Pex.
Yes, Cronus Pex. Got a spider's presence as Cronus. He's ever since Cronus Pex got made, I swear, the influence across the emote world is just unpredictable.
Yeah, I initially auditioned for Wonder Woman, and I guess I'll do this because I play every female character now. I'm pretty sure every single character in Fall of the Gods had gotten cast but Wonder Woman. So I was just like, okay, I'll do this.
I think Wonder Woman just gets a bad rap because her original comics are great, but for several decades they just had no idea what to do with the character.
Oh yeah. Well, after I got cast, I actually ended up getting a lot invested into the character, and so I started reading some of the George
the Golden and Silver Age comics are absolutely excellent. It's more like the modern time that they've sort of had a few missteps with her, because the potential for the character was always there. Frank Miller's Wonder Woman aside, there's usually been at least a decent idea.
Out of my way, sperm bank.
Oh.
I really like the direction Cage has taken Wonder Woman. I feel like it really respects the character, and it's a bit like Brian Azzarello's run, where it delves more into the mythology aspect of it, but it's also its own thing, and I really like that.
Shout out to Steve Trevor for somehow being able to fight against a cat demon lady with nothing but a sword and a gun, and even just resorting to the old trick of stepping on her tail. Genius. And to get through to move on with everything else that to move on to everything else that we got here, just to finish up DCFS real quick, we also got Legion Lost. I'm looking forward to that from you because the first one was absolutely amazing, and I have no doubts about the second one. I have heard quite a thing or two about all the subtle nods that you'll be having. Not that I'm going to spoil, but
Yeah.
I gotta say I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time traveling thing, you know.
And then, of course, we already mentioned JLA. The last thing we haven't touched on is Martian Manhunter by newcomer Perry. She definitely had a really breakout thing with Howard, so I'm actually quite looking forward to what she brings to a character like that, because I feel like he's one of DC's most underappreciated characters, because a lot of people will be quick to just brush him off as Superman, but somehow less interesting. But he's definitely a lot more than that. I mean, he's a character with a lot of depth. Even the 2003 cartoon, which didn't have a ton of time to dedicate to each individual character, did him justice in like the first few episodes.
Yeah, I mean, if no one wanted to make a Martian Manhunter project, I felt like I would want to make one eventually. But Harry's got some really good ideas so far.
Oh yeah, I've heard what she's gonna do, and I really.
It's gonna be great. And yeah, I'm really excited for JLA Legion of Doom 2.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what that's gonna be about, but that's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's
and Batman Midnight. That's gonna be great.
Oh
It's all gonna be great.
It's all gonna. It's good. Yeah, great, good.
Yeah, got it.
Got it. Good. Moving on to FS Plus, we begin with 004, a project by Shoddy, known for playing. How do you Chip? I guess Chip in Green Lantern. Pretty neat character. I guess I never know how to say that because they have a apostrophe instead of an I, based on Stranger Things. I know a lot of people love it. I personally have like a love thing with Stranger Things, but it's definitely a unique thing, and I think he's going to bring a lot to it.
Yeah, I actually have never watched Stranger Things, mostly just because the fan base and people like constantly show it. That annoys me so much.
And you're inevitably gonna get those kinds of you're gonna get those kinds of people when you're banking on like 80s nostalgia, and like 30-year-olds are gonna be like, I remember that thing.
I am very self-aware. I'm basically that when it comes to Invincible, but it still annoys me.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm a human. I'm a hypocrite. I'll admit that.
Yeah, I'm kind of a hypocrite that way because I'm that way. Star Wars. Always have been. I definitely liked all the subtle nods in Kenobi, just for that.
That was one of the most fun parts, honestly. Just like going through Wikipedia and like just picking random characters.
Oh yeah. Was Watto even in the final cut?
Yeah, he was in it, but we got rid of the "you are a noob."
You are a noob.
you are a noob. That was
no, they want. I laugh every time, even if he is a stereotype character.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got the first serious project from Heckberger, Dread 2. Honestly, not enough love is given to the original Dread with Carl Urban, so I really appreciate someone.
Oh, I thought you meant Dread with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh my God, we don't.
Honestly, wait, which one's the remake?
Okay, the remake
Dread
is the one
3D.
from 2012. Dread, yeah, Dread from 2012. Carl Urban was in it. Spice Girls, man.
Yeah.
He did really good in that movie. Honestly, like, I mean, it wasn't that high of a bar to be better than the original. Stallone was trying to be like, it was basically just trying to be a ripoff of Demolition Man, but also somehow a parody of Demolition Man, and it didn't really work. And also it had Rob Schneider. I think that's all I really have to say about that.
Oh God, yeah, that you don't need to say anything else.
Yeah. But yeah, Dread was a much more serious take on it. It's a much more gritty and realistic, a more Nolan take, if you will, on the Dread universe. And it's a real shame that it didn't make a ton at the box office, because it really was an excellent film. And Carl Urban gave an awesome performance as the main character. And so I know that since Heck is a fan of the movie and the comics, I think he'll probably bring a lot from that to the second. I mean, the Dread World is Hell World, so there's like unlimited potential in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then there's there's Yoda 4 Endgame, the climactic ending to the series.
Or maybe retitled to Yoda Jr.
I thought that I know Heck has been campaigning for that, but
I thought it was reversed. I thought Yer was campaigning for that, and Heck was like, "No, I want."
To be honest, I don't even remember. I just seem to remember that Yer like it, but maybe they'll change their mind. You never know. Baby Yoda has swept the internet. And well, if Baby Yoda does make an appearance, it'd color me surprised, but it probably wouldn't be too bad. And then of course we got
Invisible Man by Pone Cakes.
Yeah, Pone Cakes. That's definitely been something Gwen had told me she'd been watching for a while, so I'm looking forward to that, especially because Universal had been sitting on that for a while, and it was going to be in the Dark Universe, but now that's finally dead, and the website for that finally went down, so hooray! So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he'll do for that, because, based on TFC, I'm sure he'll bring nothing less than excellence to a script like that.
Yeah, Invisible Man's a good book, too. They're all good books. So, it's cool to see new twists on them.
And then, of course, we have, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by you. I know you've always been more of a fan of, the original comics that they come from. It's really weird to me, if you know anything about the originals, which I have not read them, but I know what they're like. The originals are actually they're basically like a noir, but with mutant turtles.
They're not, it's not really that much of a noir. It basically just started out as a parody of Frank Miller Daredevil. The whole, they're called the foot instead of the hand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's the black and white was just because it was an indie comic, and there were a lot of indie comics in the 80s that gained prominence. But yeah.
Fair enough. Hellboy was 80s too, wasn't it? That was indie, I guess. If you count Dark Horse as indie, I don't know.
We haven't seen very many representations of those original comics, I
feel like the Bay movie was trying to be that, but of course, because by Nickelodeon Studios, who bought it after the very underrated 2007 animated movie Warner Brothers, they bought it from them, and so of course the Nick company is just gonna. It's it was just never going to work because Michael Bay was producing it. He always likes to make big action movies that are super serious, but also have weird characters that don't fit the tone and make out of place jokes. And that's basically what you get with a movie like this, because even though he did not direct it, it feels like something he would have made, because it tries to tell you and make you feel like it's a more serious take on the characters, but it's just a comedy that happens to have some very serious scenes that don't really work with what the tone is going for at all. The snow, I will give it this, that mountain chase scene, that was pretty cool. But I don't think anyone's ever going to complain about action in a Michael Bay movie, because you already know that's going to be good. It just happens that the plot and the designs for the turtles and all of the characters that are not the turtles are terrible. Which is weird, because at the start it basically becomes April O'Neil the movie, which I don't think anyone was asking.
Well, the turtles aren't meant for a Michael Bay movie. They're meant for they're not meant for huge Michael Bay explosions every minute and whatever, and sexualization of Megan Fox and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna go out and say this. Now that Nickelodeon owns the Ninja Turtles, there's never gonna actually be a semi-faithful adaptation of more of the comics and some of the more out there stuff. Always gonna be focused on the Shredder and the Foot. Which
seriously, those are the only two villains. At least the 90s movies, you can say, yes, they definitely took a tonal departure because they were more comedy, and that was simply because most people hadn't read the comic and they just assumed from the 80s show that it spawned from it that they were meant to be comedic characters.
The first movie especially it's a legitimately great movie. It takes the best arcs from the comics.
It's early 90s and it's dated, but it still actually holds up really well.
Yeah, it takes the intro of the Turtles and it takes the Return to New York story, which is one of the best.
And if I saw it does a much better subway scene that the Bay movie tried to do, and like the way that April O'Neil meets the turtles, which is always going to be like that. That's arguably one of the biggest moments in the story, and that movie does it so well in comparison to like every other version.
Yeah, but like you've basically mentioned, every sort of version of the Turtles has those same kind of scenes. So I'm gonna stick to I'll just say this. I'm sticking to the comics, but it's gonna be a little more out there. It's not gonna be just the Shredder and the Foot Clan. The same stuff we've seen over and over again. Because there's way more to the Turtles lore than just Shredder and the Foot Clan. There's way more to it, and that's never really been explored in the movies before. So I definitely want to.
It's weird to say, but the movies seem very afraid to like go all out with a premise as crazy as turtles that grow 6 foot and buff from like mutant goo.
I'm definitely going to take some of the weirder aspects from the comics, the darker tone from the comics, and hopefully it'll work.
Good adaptation of Krang? Good God, the second Bay movie just totally butchered him entirely. Like I mean I can't even I almost don't want to like acknowledge the second movie's existence, because at least the first one, as bad as it was, had some things that you could pull from and go like, okay, that was decent. The second one just has nothing.
I never watched the second one.
Yeah, you didn't miss it. You didn't miss it. They were trying to do so much for like fans, only they ruined every single part of it. Like what they threw Bebop and Rocksteady in there, and they're both just like one-note characters that only make fart jokes, and it's just really awful. And Krang is just like I'm really gross out villain who is here to do evil things and take over because reasons. It's just bad. Better left unsaid. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, looking forward to that, Chucky. No doubt there. You've got the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen win, and as she mentioned, as she mentioned at the Green Meanies, yes, I'm still reading up on it. I definitely thought it was an interesting idea that she had for that, and reading more into it, it actually is one of Alan Moore definitely did a good job with that series, and it just makes looking at the movie they actually did make of it. Yeah. It's even more apparent why
terrible.
It's no wonder Sean Connery decided to go into retirement after that, because he basically almost every movie he had up until that point was actually pretty decent, even in the 90s when he tried to be more of like a generic action star after Bond career ended. But I definitely think that based on what Gwyn has shown me so far, it's really unique. Honestly, like no other FS project I've ever seen. And that's honestly in the best way, even in comparison to the things that she has made before. Even compared to other FS Plus project, it's a breath of fresh air in terms of like what you would imagine a superhero movie to be. It almost feels kind of like, I guess, I hope Gwyn, you can correct me when you listen to this if I'm wrong, but it kind of feels like if they took Kingsman and made it more Americanized in that way, but it's also like one of those team movies where every team member has their own unique thing and the character that they can relate to, and it's done in the best way. They're not one note based on what we have so far.
And then lastly, of course, we got Jornk with the Super Mario.
Yeah, honestly, he had been telling me about that in DMs for months. I didn't think that he'd ever actually make, even though I was like, I'd told her to see it anyway, a movie featuring Henry Cavill as Mario and Ben Affleck as Luigi. But here we are, and it's amazing.
It's gonna be great.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was a meme at first, but you know.
Well, they thought that of another project he's doing later, but we will get into that. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that, because like what can't get much worse than like the 90s movie, can you? Because that was just a dark period when they thought that you had to like make up unnecessarily convoluted stories for video games.
I mean, I enjoy the 90s movie as like a really bad train wreck that looks like a Blade Runner ripoff.
Why does Koopa City look like it's like straight mix between 1989 Gotham and Blade Runner 2049?
Yeah. It's a really weird movie.
moving on to Marvel FS, last but not least, certainly. Oh boy, we got a lot here, so why don't you go first, Chucky?
All right. So let's just start out with the Marvel Fan Scripted Universe, the MFSU, which I guess Spider had to announce, but it was basically already announced.
We've identified several worthy candidates,
Yeah.
if you will.
If you will. We got The Mighty Four by Jeff, which that's going to be Kino.
I've talked to him a lot about that. I've read his thing. I really appreciate what he's done. He takes a lot of care for the mythology of the character than the MCU is. And I mean, like, I know that a lot of people are happy with what the MCU has done with him. So you know what? That's perfectly fine. Well, yeah, I've always like I said earlier, I've always appreciated more mythology-oriented stories. So I like where he's going with it. I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but I think people really appreciate it if they know even a little bit about Norse mythology, because there's nuggets of, like, you know, in this movie, but it feels fairly accessible, even if you.
Is this Jeff's debut for directing, or has he directed something else before?
He helped me write Sensational, but he's never actually directed anything. And I actually think he did a really good job with this script, so I'm really excited to see what he does.
Well, I'm excited too.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
Should be Kino.
Should be Kino. I only wonder if they'll take that Norse myth where Loki somehow has a child with a magical Pegasus, and I wonder if he'll adapt that.
I mean, that'll be the after credit scene.
GW, bruh, Squid Woke moment.
The post credit scene is just a sex scene of them getting it on.
Oh god.
Then they find out they're pregnant, so yeah, spoilers. I'm sorry.
Well, Loki will even in Norse mythology, Loki would get with anything that had a pulse. So that's not new. And then of course we have Howard the Duck season 2 by Perry. No surprise there after how big of a surprise hit it was in 2019, the first season of the show. Everyone had fun working on that. Cakes had a lot of he brought so much to the table with Howard. Like, it starts out as like this, what feels like this fairly standard comedy that's almost like Deadpool, but it isn't super edgy and geared at teenagers, which I really appreciated. But then it, of course, evolves into more of a dark comedy. It feels almost like BoJack Horseman, which I really liked. I really like that. Of course, you know, Hydra Looney, the BoJack stan around here, loved that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see what they do with the second season, because the first season it would definitely just took you by surprise when it took a more emotional turn, and it ended on such a interesting note, which I actually don't think you will. And if you've seen the movie, you'll understand it. But I think some people were a bit confused by it. Trust me, I think once you let it sit, it makes more sense.
It'll make sense, especially when season 2 starts.
Oh yeah,
it's all coming together. All coming together.
And then, of course, we have The Incredible Hulk by Jedu's directorial debut. Very excited there, given that he has definitely had such an, shall we say, interesting film history. Like, you have a great but dated show from the 80s. Honestly, still the best interpretation because they made the most of what with the comically low budget at the time. And then you have the 2004 Hulk, which kind of underrated in my opinion, but it was...
Oh yeah, I unironically really like 2003.
I like the idea of what 2000 trying to be, this like philosophical thing about how aggression and violence destroys people. The problem is that there was just too much talking and thinking and brooding,
so boring.
And there wasn't as much Hulk smashing as you might think. I don't actually think that makes it bad. I just think that the ending is a bit messy because of...
Oh yeah, you can't tell what's going on at all.
Like, I mean, what is he? Is he fighting? Is he fighting Cloud underwater? That's supposed to be like a physical manifestation of his fears and anxieties. I think that's it.
Why couldn't that have been like a monster in like the daytime in the desert or something, so I could actually see what's happening?
Because they already wasted that on a few scenes of him fighting tanks and one of him fighting mutant Hulk dogs. So they were probably just
the Hulk
what
dog.
Else? The Hulk dogs.
That was pretty...
I thought the CGI on Hulk was actually pretty good though.
For 2003, it
yeah,
actually
especially for 2003, is really good.
And Danny Elfman actually made a pretty decent Hulk theme that obviously because the movie was so, well, basically swept under the rug, like it really goes unnoticed, but it was probably one of the last like amazing Danny Elfman scores because he was still in his prime doing like Spider-Man scores at the time. He was at the top of his game even then.
Mm-hmm.
Just wonder what happened.
Rip Justice League soundtrack.
Yeah.
The less said,
I guess
the
he
better.
guess he spent too much time giving the fans what they wanted in terms of soundtrack.
Next up, we got Korg with Spider-Man Tangled Web.
The long-awaited sequel to Back in Black. That is
Oh yeah.
very exciting. You definitely knew way more about the development of BIB than I did, and I was in it. But
I barely knew anything about it too.
oh wow, really?
Yeah. No, Spider kept me out of it.
It's fine. I mean, like, as long as it turns out well and on a script form, it turned out great. The only issue was that, well, it was originally made by Top Rack, who knew nothing about
Toprak. Is it
All of
Toprak or Toprak?
I think it's Top Rack. I've
I've
always
always
said it like
thought
that.
of it as Toprak.
Like Spider has said it himself to all the people saying release the Top Rack cut. I know it's a big meme, but it was only ever one page of like a very, very primitive outline of ideas, and it lacked a basic fundamental idea of like satisfying storytelling. He was really going for the subversion time angle with the ending. Let's just say that, because I'm pretty sure he just wanted to have Mary Jane die just for shock value. In the first movie in said universe that she would be in, even though I don't even think anyone knew that MFSU would be based around BIB at the time.
Oh no, they didn't.
I think what Hunter ended up going for with the script that he turned out with from Nigerian Prince and Spider, I think it seemed to me like it was always intended to be a thing, kind of like what TFC is seen as now. And I still think in a lot of ways it does feel like that, but it doesn't feel out of place for there to be a continuation of it. It's just different. And I think that there's a lot of potential with Tangled Webs, especially with that ending. Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
He defeated Kingpin, but at what cost? He's in a lot of ways, he's created more enemies by defeating his biggest enemy than ever. And it's honestly going to be really exciting to see where they go with that.
Next up, we also have Luke Cage, directed by Looney.
Yes, Hydra Looney, yet another.
Jeez,
Yes.
Looney is like
This man is on top of the world.
What is going on, Looney?
He's passionate. I'm telling you, he's passionate, and it's really taking him places. Kid is going places. Well, I mean, yet again, I've seen a few of his ideas for this, because me and him, we toss around ideas all the time, and I like what he's going so far. Probably, I anticipate this will probably be the most like hip hop centric soundtrack, which he's been really excited to do because he and Chef and Poon have always been really into hip hop, so I think he'll really like being able to put some of that on the soundtrack because he's told me he's wanted to be a little more experimental with it there, and it really fits the story he's trying to tell too, because I think Netflix actually did a really good job with this interpretation of the character. This feels different, even though it does take its roots from a lot of the stories that story was based around, because it comes from his earlier comics. I can't say what characters will make an appearance or not yet, simply to be spoilers, but I can say it definitely feels like a down-to-earth story which fits for a character like that. He's always been a fairly street-level character, and it really works here. The last for the MFSU announcements is Punisher in the Blood by Ratchet Punisher. Now, obviously it's been no secret that he likes Punisher. It's interesting that he decided to do that. I'm sure it'll be good, but it kind of seems that even though the season of the Punisher was very slow paced and kind of lacked energy at the beginning, John Bernthal basically seems the definitive Punisher. But to be fair, even he did do really good with that, even though it did start out a bit too slow for my taste, the Netflix show. It's not like he has much competition in that regard. Let's just keep it at that.
He's got a lot of competition, but not a lot of good competition.
Thomas Jane, honestly, I feel like if he was in a better movie. All right, let's just say if you're cast in a crime movie after the year 2000, starring John Travolta, run. Just run.
Gotti.
Except Gotti, of course. Except for Gotti, the true Kino that no FS script will retain the brilliance of. And then Punisher Warzone, which is basically, it might as well just be a comedy because it feels like a parody of a Punisher. The effects are so awful, and so is the acting. I think there's even a scene where like Punisher, who should not be strong enough to do this, punches through a guy's skull and rips out his brain.
Oh my god, he's like a Mortal Kombat character.
Fatality. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, but it is hilarious. And then moving into the Raimiverse, we have Spider-Girl coming up after
Oh, yeah.
Foe 3's is done.
Finally.
Well, I know it's been delayed, but I really can't wait because Mayday is probably one of the best, more recent additions to the Spider-Man universe. I actually really
It's not really recent. That
well, not as recent as like say Miles Morales or other than that, but like yeah, she came out around the same time that you would have seen people like Miguel O'Hara, which is probably my favorite non-Peter Parker version of the character. But Mayday was definitely a great expansion to the Spider-Man universe. For one thing, it allows you to see a version of Peter that isn't in high school still, which is something that for some reason, I don't know why the comics continually send him back to high school. Can we just have him grow up and mature, please? Like,
no, not after. Ever since like the death of Gwen Stacy.
Ever since that,
they've been all about the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally you get to see him grow up, which obviously is the requirement for something like this because she's the eventual daughter of him and Mary Jane, and I really like seeing that because she's actually a really great character. I don't know the most about her, but what I've read of her run, she really was well developed, and I think that her run probably ended too short because even though she has made several appearances in other things, at least in terms of like her solo stuff, she hasn't really had much since like what, the early 2000s?
Yeah, I think her series ended in like 2007 or 8.
Damn.
Yeah. So I was the one who chose to delay it for Foes 3, and that was just because of the Christmas stuff in the Foes 3. I was like, I don't really want that to happen in like April when no one cares about Christmas anymore.
I mean, Shazam was a Christmas movie that came out in like May, and it still worked.
you gotta like maximize your impact.
Yeah, fair.
That's why I was like, all right, we'll move Foes 3 up there. We still missed the Christmas deadline.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but yeah, Spider-Girl's gonna be good. Hopefully,
yeah, I'm really excited what you're gonna do to that.
It's not that. I guess it's not really like the most faithful adaptation. It's more of, it feels very much like a soft reboot, if you will. It's like the Force Awakens of Raimi.
Oh yeah, this is like the. Oh yeah, okay. So are you saying that when we sit?
No, like as soon as Spider-Girl starts, as soon as the first session happens, people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is just like Spider-Man 1." Like, it's gonna be different.
No.
It's gonna be similar but different. It'll be a real throwback. That's all I'm saying.
I wonder if Spider-Girl 2 will have some of those Ryan Johnson moments.
Oh no, Spider-Girl 2 is gonna be like completely original, but Spider-Girl 1 is gonna be a nice throwback to the old age of Raimi memes.
I like that because like I love where we've gone, but like I sort of miss what Raimi memes used to be. It's lost its way. Yeah, it'll be a good type of nostalgia tone that was made for a purpose.
Oh,
yeah. And then of course we have Agent Venom and the Thunderbolts by Spider. I honestly was really surprised. I thought we'd never like see Red Hulk in anything. I mean, we aren't going to see him in the MCU like ever, which really frustrates me because General Ross is a really complex character, and I hate that he's never been explored. But I guess they haven't really done much in terms of like the Hulk in terms of solo movies either. So I guess beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing him in this movie because I really like General Ross as a character, and I think they're really going to expand what they sort of built on in terms of like the military contract stuff in the original Agent Venom.
We're bringing back a Dutch as Ross too. He got recast for one movie. now he's back to being Dutch.
He's got a goddamn plan.
He's got a goddamn plan.
I still am amazed that nobody told him. He was just like, Trevor's going to be the main villain, guys. He's not who he says he is. I mean, like, nobody suspected a thing. I don't know how, and then somehow miraculously he's secretly Cletus Cassidy in disguise. Like that actually was a really well executed twist. I don't know how Looney saw it coming. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the expansion of that story because Flash Thompson is arguably even better than Eddie Brock Venom at times. Maybe the best, because Agent Venom is honestly one of the best things they've ever done with that character. Because I mean, there's only so much you can do with like the original incarnation of the character, even though they have done creative things with scary monster man who eats people. I think Agent Venom is a much more sophisticated version of that. Not to diss on the OG version of the character. I just like the concept of Agent Venom because it highlights the struggle of man and symbiote a lot more, you know?
This might be my my first audition in a long while.
Oh
we are
boy,
doing...
you're gonna audition for it.
I mean, you know, I see Dutch. I see
Fair
Dutch, and
enough.
I'm like, bruh, I gotta at least try for this.
Yeah, that wasn't made for you, I guess.
I know. I just hope I can get his like mannerism, like.
Oh,
you know,
trust me, if anyone could get Dutch's mannerisms down, it's you.
Hopefully, I hope once I audition, you know, hopefully I'll be the best. I don't know. Someone else might be better, but I want to try for that because that's.
You just gotta get your head right.
Have some goddamn faith.
Or Dutch shoves Arthur off a cliff moment. And then, of course, we got Moon Knight by Master Chef Jr., which, you know, I honestly didn't think we'd ever... I mean, I had heard whispers of it, but I never thought it would actually like come to fruition simply because Moon Knight is probably one of the hardest characters to adapt. His origin is like so insane. But
yeah, and
it's honestly in like a good way. Like, I mean, it's really complex, but like you could take that and basically make it into something that's a really decent, like, I mean, I hate that I'm comparing him to Deadpool. It's like the closest thing I can think of, but like less.
Oh, he's not like that.
Less raunchy, not that raunchy, but he's still definitely more of like a cocky, badass kind of persona. But it's basically just because he's got all that mystical power and like, wouldn't you just like basically go, well, like, I got all this insane power, fuck it, let's do some crazy shit.
That's not really what Moon Knight is.
I must admit I don't know the most about him, so like,
it's tricky to adapt him because there are a lot of runs and they're each really different. So there are a lot of different interpretations of the character a chef could go with.
I don't know much about it, so what do you think that this one will do? Like the more crazy and out there versions are the ones that try to like trim back the fat of like his originally very complex origin.
It's not gonna trim back the fat. That's all I know.
Fair enough. For a character like that, why not go all out?
I mean, we got Jake Gyllenhaal as Moon Knight too, so we might like kind of go a bit into the memes, but it'll be a very mysterious movie, I feel.
Just tell Master Chef Jr. not to ever apologize. A forward-thinking person in the room with adapting.
Okay, we also got Spider-Girl 2, which I'm not sure if there's much to say about it other than it's going to be original and it's sequel. Anything else you got to add?
It's going to be the end of the Raimiverse.
Damn, bro.
And yeah, it's a damn bro moment, but I'm going to try to make it really satisfying. And honestly, we're probably not even going to get to it until next year. But I already have some ideas cooking. I'll largely have to wait until Agent Venom and Moon Knight are done. But once they are done, I'll really sort of get into the mindset for that. It'll probably take a while, even after Moon Knight comes out, to write that outline. Because, you know, you really got to consider how to end this properly. You know?
Yeah, no, I have faith in you, Chucky, because, like, if anyone can end it passionately and with a lot of, like, love and attention to the Raimiverse, it would be you. I have faith.
Thanks.
I don't think you'll pull a Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, not gonna linger on that.
Yeah,
anyway,
don't talk about Star Wars.
And finally, of course, we have the what ifs, if you will, of Marvel fan scriptures, the ones that aren't connected to any universe, but stand entirely on their own. First of all, we got Cademan's Spider-Man X-Men. He hasn't actually said
Spider-Man
much
versus
about this.
X-Men.
Oh, versus. It doesn't actually... I don't actually... It never said it on the poster, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, that's he hasn't said much about it, but I guess the premise speaks for itself. Seems interesting. We'll see where it goes. Seems fairly like a fairly unique concept. I think it'll be great. Then, of course, we got the Jork Lockett cut of Spider-Man Homecoming, which, I helped him with. I think he made probably one of the... Well, I mean, obviously it would be cliche to say one of the greatest, but one of the most down-to-earth kind of projects I've ever seen, because I think I really applaud him because he saw the potential in Homecoming that was just never really brought to fruition in our minds, because we all know that there's a lot of people who like it in the server. That's perfectly fine. This isn't going to be... Given that I worked on it as well, and I'm really proud to have been a part of it, I can say, first of all, it is not going to be anything taking a jab at the theatrical version of the film. It's just something that goes in a different direction, something we feel is more appropriate for the MCU version of the character, because Tom Holland, he doesn't do any wrong as the character. And so I'm glad that we've got him in something that we can feel is like totally the right direction. It's got a lot of unique twists and turns, even some characters that I can't name for now, because that would be a spoiler in and of itself, that you might not expect, but I think you'll really like them. And it sort of feels like if you took Raimi's Spider-Man 1 in a way and just made it for current day audience. Because, I mean, we all love Spider-Man 1 here, but it definitely is a product of its time. What with, I mean, for crying out loud, it had a music video, Nickelback. That's the most 2002 thing ever.
Don't be hating on Hero.
And they say that a
hero can save
us.
Not gonna
stand here and wait. It's a
Yeah,
banger.
definitely. It definitely feels like if you took that, I'm not dissing on it because I love that song too. It definitely feels like if you just took that and like plopped it into the middle of 2017. It's definitely less. It's definitely not tonally like the MCU in a lot of ways, even if it does have some of those things there. It's still a very bright and fun movie. You can sort of relax while watching it, but it's definitely the most street level version of Spider-Man that I think I've ever liked. And that's like in a good way, because like that's definitely, I think the movie was going for that, but at least IMO, no offense to anyone who doesn't see a problem with it, I think it sort of loses the identity build with him just sort of like, in the beginning, just helping people out, getting old ladies across the street and like doing flips for people on recording. I think it sort of loses that down to earth feel when you get into like the Tony Stark stuff. So I appreciate that we could sort of move in a different direction with it. That's much more accurate to how, like, the struggling everyman version of the character that we know Spider-Man to be. So there's definitely some things taken from the Raimiverse version of the character, and it's just not as much of a focus, obviously, because we don't want to make it too much like that. There's a line between a subtle nod and a reference that goes way too hard.
I mean, although I like Homecoming, I mean, I think there are things that could be, changed for the better. And I'm sure you, Joink, with your help, can also, like, just make it a better movie, make it more down to earth. I think that's a really good idea. And I actually thought about, I remember Joink talking about it a long time ago, and I'm like, oh, that'd be a really cool idea. And now that it's happening, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to show it because, like, I obviously I am not the main. I was not the main person to work on it because he had most of the great ideas. I mostly worked on ideas for like the secondary characters, but his ideas for all the main characters, because it was still, he basically already almost completed Act 1 when he came to me and was like, hey, I'm writing this, but I need some extra advice on where to go. I knew when I took a look at the premise he'd come up with that we were sitting on a gold mine here, because the man is, you already know from what he's done with like Loyola Cut and Foes too, the man's a damn genius when it comes to like creating compelling drama that also has very nice comedic elements to it. It'll definitely have some of that Foes 1 and 2 style comedy to it, but it fits in this world.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, that's wow. We have had
Yeah.
a lot to talk about on this episode.
Yeah, that was a long one.
We covered the Green Meanies 2019, and we
about a
can't
month late.
And I think that will be all from us. We are really glad to have done this, and we can't wait to talk about more FS stuff soon. And we'll see you guys. Green Meanies 2020 gonna be an even bigger year.
Wait, I got something to shout
I'm
out.
telling you,
Hold up.
riveting. That's an understatement.
Hold up. I want to give a shout out to my man, Pogoose, PogChamp. I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out. Hey, shout out Mobius. Mobius. Out in theaters. 2020. Hashtag Rise. That's all I gotta say. Thank you very much.
Rise.
Rise.
All right, we will. And that's signing off from us. That's been it. It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going.